Hello and welcome to episode 42 of In PS We Trust, a PlayStation podcast. My name's Davey, and joined with me, as always, is Phil.
Rocking Stone.
And Spencer.
Yes, boys, are we... Boys, what the fuck is that? Help?
What's happened, listener, is that Spencer's having some issues at home, in his home life. Basically, you wouldn't know this, but it's an ongoing joke for us as podcast hosts, is that Spencer's dad always likes to do DIY whenever we start recording. So if you need your tiles done, make sure it's done on a Friday at 9 o'clock when you kick off the podcast, because that's a perfect time for it, apparently. And what he's done is, he decided he saw a wire through the wall and just cut it. And it was your internet, wasn't it, Spence?
It was my fucking Ethernet cable. And he thought, you know what? That's probably the aerial wire. Probably fine. We don't use that. It's my internet. My fucking internet. My PC is useless.
So, you are round mine, and I set you up with the green screen. So we're going to have some fun with it this episode, because you're travelling the world today, mate. You're going everywhere. You're seeing the sights. You're going to be living the dream today on this episode, and I'm looking forward to see what kind of creative shenanigans myself and Phil get up to, if you're watching it on YouTube. If you're on audio, then sorry, you're going to miss out on that one. But that's what you get. Now, this episode, listener, we've got a load to go through. We're cutting it down to one topic because it is a major topic. So we're going to be talking and unpacking the Square news, because Square have sold off a lot of their Western studios to the Embracer Group, and we'll be unpacking that and going into that in quite a bit of depth. Now, what we're going to do instead is we're going to go through medium news today. So we're going to kind of slow it down on the quick news and really start unpacking some of the other things that have come up, because there is just news out the wazoo. It is everywhere. It is madness. So we're going to take our way through that. But before we do, guys, I want to ask you something. How do you feel about sexy statues? Because I was on Twitter earlier today, and I saw this statue of Tifa from Final Fantasy VII that got me feeling some kind of way. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And for you audio listeners, I'll put a link in the doc for this in the description, because you got to see this statue. Jesus Christ. Spence, you seem like the type that would know about this.
I take offense to that. However, yes, I do know about it. It depends on the statue. That Tifa one, sheesh. I mean, she's a bit close to that sword with her coochie hanging out. It's a bit risky, but...
Can you do me a favour? Can you describe to the audio listener, can you describe this statue to them? Just so they can paint a picture, you know?
Sure. It's Tifa Lockhart from Final Fantasy VII. Everyone knows she is a god among women. And she's doing the Jacko pose, it's called. It's a pose from Guilty Gear. And it's basically her doing the splits, but not fully. She's kind of elevated doing the splits, and instead of her coochie being on the floor, she's arched over with her breasts on the floor. And boys, I'm acting up, man. I saw that statue, I reinstalled FF7.
I was having a really terrible day, and then I saw that statue just being shared by everybody on Twitter, everyone coming up with like crazy takes, and then a lot of people really thirsting, like proper thirsting, like, yo, where can I get this statue? Is this official? It's obviously not official, right? But I looked into it. I looked into the statue, and it turns out it's like 300 quid. I don't know how thirsty you have to be to put 300 quid down, but you know, last episode we were talking about the Dead Island statue. We were talking about how you just cannot explain a headless body with just tits out. You just can't explain that being on display. How do you possibly go about explaining having this kind of statue, this kind of lewd statue on your shelf, especially if a woman walks in the room? You somehow bring a woman back, and then she's greeted by Tifa, tits on the floor, arse in the air, pants up. How do you go about explaining that away? Phil, I want to hear your best excuse here.
I think I'd be quite prepared, though, if I'm, potentially going to bring a girl back. I think I would have probably put the statue away, along with my Dead Island headless torso. I would have packed them away, put them in the private box. That's for my viewing only.
So you'd be a bit ashamed about it?
Yes, I would. If I genuinely owned either of these statues, I'd be terribly ashamed. I'm going bright red talking about it right now.
Spence, what about you? What would you do? Would you own up to it, or would you hide it away like some dirty little secret?
Bro, that statue stays in the bedroom. There is no way it's leaving. That girl comes in, she's like, oh my god, is that Tifa? You're like, damn right it is. It's sex time. And the entire time you're doing it, bro, I ain't even looking at this bird. I'm staring at that Tifa statue the whole time.
Jesus
what a
Christ.
fantastic experience.
I think I'd own it. I think I'd make it really painfully obvious as well. I think I'd just walk into the room and be like, oh, have you seen my Tifa statue? Just get it out the way straight away. At least then if they walk out, you're like, oh, well, never mind. It's better than waking up in the morning and then them noticing it and then them being horrified, right, about what they've done and feeling really dirty. At least you can, like, justify it. You could be like, yeah, look at Tifa. She's athletic, isn't she? Doing that pose.
I could imagine you, Davey, having it on the dining room table. You know, your parents come over for a nice meal, and it's just front and center, just sat there. It's the centerpiece to your table. You bring out the roast dinner that you've been preparing all day, and they've just had to look across the table at each other with Tifa doing the splits in front of them.
And then you just walk out straight away and be like, oh, I wish I could split her like I'm going to do this chicken. And just split the leg straight away, carve it off. Oh, I could carve her up. Oh, Jesus Christ, it's getting dark. But yeah, guys, I need to talk about that. That was just, it blew my mind today seeing that. And Twitter's just been into an absolute rage.
Have you put your pre-order in?
Oh yeah, I got two. One for spaffing on and one for just putting away nice and safe. One for show, one for secret. On that note, I want to find out what you're drinking today, guys. I'm feeling in a good mood today. So, Phil, let's start with you. Let's spice it up a little bit. What are you on?
Well, Davey, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you put me on the spot first, because I'm usually prepared after Spencer. I get my words straight. But I'm ready for this one. Tonight, I am on the Brewdog. I've got a large selection downstairs, and I've picked through, and I've picked a classic. I'm going to start tonight off with the Punk IPA.
Okay, I can respect it. It's not the worst one out of the lot. So you're not on that Elvis juice one?
I'm not on any Christmas calendar Brewdogs, that's for sure. I've given all those away to my work friends. Got rid of those because they were trash. I've just kept the cream of the crop. So yeah, I'm just sticking with the classic tonight, but I have got a couple of Bud Lights circulating as well, just to keep that buzz going throughout the show. I don't want to get too hammered tonight because I know you boys, you're off the pop. You're not going to be doing any of the shots tonight. And let me add, there's a hell of a lot of shots that we need to do. So we need to line that up and make sure we've got nothing going on for that weekend when we decide to go through those shots.
Yeah, it's a shame, really. Me and Spence both working tomorrow, so we are out of the mix. We cannot drink today, not properly anyway. But I just want to say before I move over to Spence, Phil, it's nice to see you drinking a bit of trash with a bit of trash. You know, the Bud Light and the Punk in one fatal combination. Spencer, I don't think you're going to have much trouble beating that. What are you on today?
So, boys, today I was, obviously because I'm working and I was coming over yours, Davey, I got to drive back home. I was just going to buy a big carton of orange juice and that'd just be me for the night. However, on the way, I remembered that I gave my mate a lift the other day, and when I did, he left in my car a Carlsberg. And I thought, I've never had Carlsberg on the show before, actually. This is a first. Speaking of thirst. Ooh.
I appreciate that pun. I really appreciate it. I like that one a lot. That was a good one.
But yeah, I'm on the Carlsberg. I've got one can of it. And then following that, Davey, your generosity is endless. And I have a Thatcher's Haze, courtesy of your fridge. And then beyond that, I guess I'm on the Pepsi or the Fanta or water.
So not drinking tonight, but straight off the bat, you're mixing drinks. Perfect.
I've heard it's 5 and drive anyway, so you should be okay. No problems there at all.
Exactly.
For myself, guys, I'm on the Thatcher's Haze, like Spence said. I got a couple in my fridge, so I'm going to whip through those. But then after that, I turn to my old friend, the Doctor, Dr. Pepper. As they always say, what's the worst that can happen? And so that's why I'm going to enjoy this later on in the show, guys. It's going to be a very, very good episode today. I can feel it right in my balls. Speaking of balls, let's move it on to what we've been playing.
This time on NPS We Trust, what have the boys been playing?
Phil, I want to start with you today and ask you what you've been playing, because the last time we spoke, you were working your way through Horizon and you were getting your balls choke slammed by 2 different massive creatures. Have you managed to beat those 2 bosses on Horizon?
The short answer is a yes, I have, because I have leveled up. At the time of completing that story mission, I believe I was in the 40s somewhere, but now I am 91 and a half hours into Horizon. I'm level 50. I've collected all the drones, all the lenses, all the black boxes, the vista points, the ornaments. I have full orange kit, and I have completed the game. I haven't only just completed the game, I have the platinum for the game. So there we go. Oh.
That's an incredible effort. 91 hours. And especially doing all those different side quests. I think it's fair to say that you enjoyed your time with this game.
Yeah, very much so. And the more I played the game, the more I enjoyed it, definitely. And I did quite a lot of research to be able to get the platinum because it's not obvious, a lot of those trophies. And through my research, I sort of dug in quite deep into what weapons are available, what armor sets are available. If you allow me, Davey, I'll just mention a few. So the best weapons that I found within my experience was the Sky Killer. So that's the spike thrower. That was incredible at taking down the monsters. A lot of burst and blowing up kind of explosion damage. And then the Forgeful, which was the sharpshooter bow. Both of these are orange items. So that was kind of like the sniper rifle. So that was definitely my playstyle. So up close and far away. Those were my two kind of distance ranges that I sort of took down each of the monsters. When it came to the armor, I was dressed head to toe in the Nora Thunder Warrior armor. So again, orange set, came from the arena, and it's modeled after the Thunderjaw. So she was looking stylish.
Same armor as me. Great minds think alike. I tell you what, that armor set is beautiful. Great choice, great choice. And with those weapons as well, I think I didn't use the sniper rifle one too much, but I did use that spike thrower. And that is a hell of a weapon. So good. So are you finding now that with it finally done, with it over, how did you feel the story progressed? And with you seeing the ending now, no spoilers, obviously, but are you happy with what they've set up for the third entry?
Very much so. It leaves me wanting more and more and more, I think. I know I've been all over the place with my ratings when it's come to this game, because I think last time we were talking about it, or maybe the episode before we were talking about this, we were being quite negative. We were picking out that there was no water combat, why can't you ride all the mounts? But these are very minor points when we're talking about Horizon. This game is outstanding, and it's well worth anyone picking this game up who enjoyed the original. So that's Zero Dawn on the PS4. There's been loads of improvements, mainly for my money. It surrounds the storytelling of the game. That has definitely progressed. And the game is beautiful. It sings on the PS5's resolution mode. So that's native 4K resolution, and it offers a much better visual fidelity experience versus the performance mode. So that's 60, 1080p. And that really drops in my experience of playing the game. So the way the story sort of ends, it definitely leaves it open for a third. Obviously, I don't want to go into the spoilers. It was quite interesting, the end. I made sure to push through that and enjoy every second of it. And I stayed through the entirety of the credits as well. Did you enjoy those? I know you've completed the game as well.
Yeah, I did. I really did. The thing I really liked about it is in that final mission, it's a very much an Avengers feel to it. The way the mission kind of progresses, all your teammates that you've met across your entire journey, they all kind of show up, they're all there, it's this big kind of climactic battle, and it just feels very much like an Endgame moment, or, an Infinity War moment, and you think, oh, hell, this is so hype. That last mission to me just really solidified just how great the overall experience was with Horizon, and how memorable the characters that you've met across your entire journey are. Like you've said, the storytelling in this game is just improved so much from where they were in the first entry. And even that was really good. That was one of the best sci-fi stories I think I've ever experienced. So to take that and then raise the bar even more with where they've ended it now, so happy. And yes, for the credits, like you said, sat through all of them, just really enjoyed it. Just took it in and kind of just gave me a chance to really just reminisce over the journey that I've had. And obviously your journey was a third longer than mine. You had an extra 30 hours in that world than I did.
So I got a quick question for you, and for our listeners, we've both got the platinum now, but our experiences were quite different. I did 90 hours, you did around 60. Do you feel like you've missed out on a bit of the experience that maybe I loved and enjoyed? Because you kind of rushed a little bit of it, I felt, when we were talking about it on the podcast for Elden Ring.
I don't feel like I had. If I'm totally honest with you, outside of that main story mode, I was kind of done. I'd seen everything that I needed to see. And the tasks that I really enjoyed doing were getting like the 3 stars on the hunting ranges. and doing those kind of activities. When it came to the black boxes and things like that, I did a few, but I didn't really enjoy them too much. I think I was kind of just hyped up on being able to eventually learn to fly. And then by the time I kind of got that flight upgrade, it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. I didn't really feel the urge to do any more. I'd done kind of enough. And I think with myself, I quite like a shorter experience, right? I'd quite like it to be a 20-hour, 30-hour experience, start to end. I think that would be perfect for me. So 50-odd hours and 60 by the time I actually finished it, got the platinum, I'd spent enough time in that world. That's like a lifetime for me compared to how long I spend in most games. And so no, I don't feel like I've missed anything out because I sampled everything, and the things I wanted to do, I did them. And I suppose that's the beauty of this game, is that it gives you so much content. And if you really want to do everything, you can spend hundreds of hours in that world. But if you want to just kind of pick and choose and see what you want to do and what you don't, it's not going to impede your overall experience. And I think that's a really good tightrope to walk, which something that's like The Witcher, for example, doesn't achieve, because it chucks everything at you. It's all great, but it just becomes overwhelming. And I never felt like I was overwhelmed for content, which you very much could fall into if you start going down the rabbit hole of doing every single side quest and every single thing that kind of pops up. But I do think that the 30 hours difference in my experience versus yours, there's definitely some minutiae there. Those extra 30 hours, you're going to have noticed things that I certainly wouldn't have. You know, certain things that maybe I might have brushed over and thought, yeah, I don't quite like that, that's fine. You might have stuck with that, persisted with it, and found a deeper appreciation. So I think even though our experiences are probably quite tied, and we'll get onto your rating in a minute, but they're probably quite close in how we both feel about the game, your opinion is definitely going to be worth more than mine on this, because you've had more time to kind of savor in every single detail.
Yeah, definitely. And just for our listeners and our viewers, if you are completionist, I suppose, like me with this game, a lot of the things that I was collecting you don't actually need for the trophy, and some of them don't even give you orange weapons, I found out after doing them. So the black boxes themselves, they only give you resources once you finish that. It does add to the story, it does give you a little bit more background on Elizabeth Sobek, but it doesn't really add too much. There's no trophy, as I said, and there's no orange weapon at the end of that one. So that one you could probably avoid. As well as the drones, they don't actually give you anything other than different views when you're in kind of Gaia's chamber. And of course, this makes total sense to Davey, but no sense to Spencer. And that brings me on to my next question. Spencer, you haven't got around to playing Horizon, have you? And knowing how, I suppose, passionate myself and Davey are about this game and how much we've enjoyed it, obviously, we'll get onto the ratings later, but I'm assuming they're going to be pretty high, or I assume both of them will be matched. Do you think you'll dig into this game at any point now? Obviously, you can borrow my copy if you need it.
It's definitely an experience I want to take part in. I started Zero Dawn a while ago, and I just got distracted and ended up playing other games or doing other stuff, but I was really enjoying that game, and I think I got maybe 15 hours into it. I was really enjoying it, but I just had other stuff to do. I'd like to go back to it, and I'm definitely going to beat Zero Dawn before I play Forbidden West. There is no chance I just play the second one. It's just dependent on the time. As everyone knows now, I've got no internet at my house. Single player games, perfect time. Who knows? Maybe I'll get it done by the end of the week. Maybe I'll be playing something else.
I guess the question is, do you have a spare like 120 odd hours, right? So if you did it around 60 hours each game, because you probably wouldn't have gone to the extent I did with it all. Are you really got that amount of time to spare? Now you've got the girlfriend, now you've got the job, you're on that balancing act. It's very difficult, I think. It's a big undertaking, these games now.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of time. I'm struggling to beat like 12-hour experiences at the minute. Elden Ring took me long enough, and that was 80... I don't know how long I spent on Elden Ring. Like 80 hours. I don't know if I can commit to another big game like that right now. I kind of just want some nice short platinums, but short experiences to just kind of distract me until I'm ready for an undertaking such as Horizon.
Yeah, definitely. You can't go back to back on these games, can you? I mean, David did, but most mere mortals like myself, I couldn't go back to back now. I'm not going to jump into another 90-hour experience. I want something a little flippant. I want some more multiplayer with you guys, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
So I suppose before we move on to what Spencer's actually been playing and what I've been doing, I want to know then, what is your ranking? Because my ranking, just to give people a reminder, mine came in at a 9 out of 10. I thought it was a great game. Like Phil was saying about the nitpicks, for me there was quite a lot of nitpicks that I had with this game, and I don't think it does enough to really elevate it much above the original. It's a better game than the original, but not by an awful lot. I don't think. I think Guerrilla, as much as they've done great work with the story and they've done great work in terms of the mocap and the visual fidelity is incredible, I think they could have done a lot more in terms of the gameplay, in terms of improving it just a little bit more than it was. I'm still coming in with 9 out of 10, so it's still a super high review, but there was quite a bit missing there. It stops it from being a 10. What about yourself, Phil?
It's hard, isn't it? When you rate something a 9 out of 10, you end up going over the negatives, why you didn't give it a 10 out of 10.
Without a doubt.
So for me, I'm just going to echo literally everything, and I know it's boring, but I'm echoing everything you've said, Davey. I feel like I've crossed that bridge now, and I'm on your side. I'm in your way of thinking now with Horizon. I'm scoring it a 9 out of 10 official Phil Hoy stamp of approval. I love the game, but as you said, there are little things within the game which I feel could have been improved. But ultimately, the reason why I don't give it the full 10 is it doesn't reach my top 5 games of all time. The guy I work with, Nathan, I was speaking to him earlier on Twitter, and he was asking, what's your top 3, what's your top 5, talking about best games of all time. And unfortunately, as much as I love this game, it doesn't get into that list. It gets into it for PlayStation 5, definitely, because obviously we're quite early on in the generation. I've got 2 platinums, one of them's Ratchet and Clank, which I rate very highly, so this is up there as well. But I don't think this is a game, if we were doing the podcast 10 years' time, I'm going to be referencing Death Stranding, Portal, the game that cannot be mentioned too. These are the 3 games that always stick with me, regardless of time frame, regardless of console, regardless of PC, whatever. I'll always bring up these games, but I don't think Horizon's going to be that. So it's not a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm going to leave it on a 9.
Yeah, be interesting to see how this game does when we get to Game of the Year discussions and see kind of how we feel about it in relation to everything that's come out this year, especially if God of War does hit, things like that. Be very interesting. We'll have to watch this space. We've got a long way till then, though. Now, Spencer, let's move over to yourself. What have you been up to over the last couple of weeks, especially with you finding yourself now in the dark ages, quite literally, without having internet and probably no lighting, I imagine, if your dad decides to go around and start, chopping all your lights off for some reason.
Quick question before Spencer starts. Does Spencer's dad know where you live, Davey?
No, I've strategically not told him at all. For all he knows, I'm a hermit, right? He has no idea, because I cannot risk him knowing that we're recording right now. Because he will come round and he'll start fixing my fence out the back garden. And as much as I'd appreciate that, it's 20 to 10. I don't need somebody going around and start knocking up doing some carpentry in my back garden at this time, which I know he's very apt to do.
Any minute, I'm just going to see Spencer's dad break through the wall with a big jackhammer. Sorry, guys, just created a new door here.
It's only a matter of time. Don't say his name anymore, because it will happen. It will summon him. It'd be like Candyman. You say like Spencer's dad, Spencer's dad, Spencer's dad, and then boom, whoa! I'm here, boys. What you need doing? Looks like it's time for me to replace all the electrics in the house. No, don't need this. Cuts the router, chucks it. Yah! Absolute madman, savage. If you need any work done though, Spencer, how can people find your dad?
Best way is probably through me. My dad doesn't really understand technology, as I'm sure everyone knows, because he's cutting wires out the fucking wazoo. He doesn't know what wires do or what social media is. So if you want to reach him, either send a letter, because that's the only form of communication he knows, or come through me and I'll point you in the right direction.
I think that the most efficient way of doing it is literally just the Candyman approach. So just light a couple of candles, go in the bathroom mirror, say his name 5 times, and he will be there. Before you know it. Jackhammer in hand. But Spencer, back to it. What have you been playing?
I've not played an awful lot. I've played a good amount of games. I've not spent a lot of time in each individual game. So the first game I'd like to mention on the podcast is Bugsnax. Bugsnax, the Isle of Big Snacks. As soon as I saw the update was live, instantly reinstalled. So as you like progress through Bugsnax, the Grumpuses that you meet along the way, as you do quests for them, they'll give you items, and those items you can use to customize your own little home that they've made for you, and that's really cute. I've got my own little place. I've got a few statues. I got a strawberry hat of that little Bugsnax. I've got little lights going across the roofs. Cloud wallpaper is lovely. But obviously, the big thing in this update is the Isle of Big Snacks itself. You go to a beach, and then suddenly there's an earthquake, and you're like, what the fuck? And then out of the water, it emerges the Isle of Big Snacks. And it's just the same thing, but everything's huge. That's all it is. It's massive. There's shitloads of puzzles. It's actually really fun. like really cool, intricate puzzles. You got mazes, you got different like torch puzzles. And as far as the quests go to do with that DLC, I haven't done any of them yet. Because as soon as I got to the Isle, I just wanted to explore. I just wanted to run around and try catch bug snacks and try figure out how to catch. I had to kind of relearn the game as well, because it's been a long time since I've played bug snacks. It all came straight back to me, obviously. I was a bug snacks fucking pro. Got the platinum. Easy job. Caught a giant bunga off the bat. And then that was it. I just ran around catching shit. And since then, I'm sat at the Grumpuses, ready to start my quests. And I've put the game on hold. And I'm ready to experience the Isle of Big Stacks.
Is it still the best game of all time, Spencer?
Yes.
I'm glad to hear it. Now, I got a burning question to ask you, because I haven't had a chance yet to get to this game. I've been too distracted with other things that I'll get onto when I get to my section. Do you have any new tools? Because I really liked the bug ball. I really liked the different kind of things that you can do with the limited tools that you have. And like you said about the puzzles and stuff, whenever there was like a flying creature, and you thought, how the hell am I going to get the bug ball up there? Or how am I going to knock it down? What do I have to use? Have you got any new tools to be able to fight a giant bunga?
So far, I haven't found any new tools. But I haven't started any of the quests yet. So I'm sure if I do, that's how I will get them. But there have been a few bug snacks that I've come across, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, how the fuck? And like you said, it's mostly the flying ones. But there are also like different types of bug snacks. Like there are some that are like frozen, or you get a potion kind of thing. There's pots you can find on the island, and they shrink the bug snacks to make them feasible for capture. And there's one bug snacks that's kind of like, what is he? He's like, say he's a cake, right? He's a cake and he's in the wrapping is the issue. So he's got like a tray over him. And that tray means he can't be shrunk. So you have to find the way to remove the tray and then you can shrink him.
Oh, that's so cool. I really liked that in the base game when you were up on the mountain and they were frozen and you had to set them on fire to put them back to like kind of room temperature. And then you could catch them. I really liked all that kind of stuff. It was so great.
So you guys are very much bug snacks aficionados. You love this game. You rate it 10 out of 10. You talk about it quite a lot on the podcast, almost as much as I talk about Death Stranding. So you guys really must love this game. I'm a noob when it comes to bug snacks, and so might some of our listeners. You know, how would you convince me and the listeners about this game? What even is it? What is a bug snack? And what do you do with a bug snack once you've caught it?
I think the best way to convince someone is to just go on Google Images, type in bunga, and just have a look. And that is it. The bug snacks themselves are magnificent creatures. They're so strange and peculiar. And you just want to learn more about them. You want to see what different types there are. And that's what draws you to this world.
What type of game is it, Spence?
It's kind of Pokemon. There's no battling or anything. It's just catching. That's all it is. It's like Pokemon Snap, where you just have to figure out what causes them to get captured. You have to figure out each bug snack. They all have different things, but maybe if you get close, they'll run away. They're shy. They'll run into a bush. You have to figure out what they like, use what they like to lure them somewhere, figure out how to trap them there or figure out how to knock them down, and then you can catch them. And then once you've caught them, you feed them to one of your fellow Grumpuses, and then they horribly morph into a food Grumpus being, and they lose their limbs, but they're replaced by french fries or cakes or strawberries, and you can swap their nose for a pie. It's quite a dark game, really, actually.
Sounds bizarre, but ultimately it's a puzzle game, is that correct?
Yeah, probably.
I'd probably say the easiest way is just 4 words. Bug Snacks is good Pokemon. That's basically what it is. It's just Pokemon, but for people that aren't virgins. And that's pretty much about it, really. It's just, and like Spence said, there's always fun to be able to take a Grumpus that's just a normal looking person. Chandlo is my favourite. It's this guy who lifts, right? He's like proper like, yeah, bro. And all you do is you just change him into just being some eldritch creature. You know, like a burger torso, hot dog for a head. You know, just really go wild with it. And it's just fun to be able to experiment into different combinations, you know? And it was a great game. I really enjoyed my time with it. I cannot wait to dive into this.
One more question, right? So you change these Grumpuses into grotesque monsters, for a lack of a better word. What happens to them then Do they have certain advantages because they have, I don't know, a Brussels sprout for a left eye? Or a banana for a finger? I don't know. What do you do with them once you change them?
Well, we don't get the lore about if they get onto personal independence payment or some kind of PIP, some kind of disability. We don't know if they get some kind of benefit from this. The only thing we do understand is that they're quite happy. They're quite contented with their life. I can imagine that, having hot dogs for hands is quite a disfigurement. I can imagine it being quite hard to be able to do anything, really, to be honest. But they don't seem to mind. They're really content about it. In fact, they just want to eat more and more. Whereas I would be worried about what I could do having a food as hands. Now, I mean, if you're talking to a cannibal, then you are food, right? You're walking food to a cannibal. But in real life, in your day-to-day, you could do quite a lot with these. I'm holding my hands up for the audio listeners. If you just got one giant sausage for each, outside of potentially bludgeoning someone to death, you're going to have quite a hard time. Yeah, we got to wait for the lore on that. Maybe Bugsnax too.
I'm still so confused. I was mainly asking what does it mean in the game, but you guys carry on.
It doesn't really go into it. They're just quite happy to eat them. And apparently they're beautiful to eat, so, can't fault them. Don't knock it till you try it, I say. So I'm just waiting for a Bunga to, start coming into my room and I'll take a good bite out of him. I'll let you know. Spencer, have you been playing anything else?
Well, outside of Bugsnax, most of the stuff I've been playing has been with friends. Surprise, surprise, those friends are you boys. So how about, instead of what I've been playing, boys, what have we been playing? Let's be a group. Team effort right now. The first game I think we should talk about, Ghosts of Tsushima, which is Ghosts of Tsushima Legends, not the full game, just the Legends mode, which we got for free on PS Plus. Boys, what a sick fucking game of mine. What a fantastic experience that game is. Oh my god, you go all stealthy and shit, and then you fuck up. You're like, oh fuck, they come in, the Oni's coming at us, boys. And then you start slashing, you're begging for your life, you're popping your healing gourds on your face. You're like, oh my god, and then you die, really. But you have fun.
It's been a real shock to me, Ghost of Tsushima Legends, because we kind of booted up when we had kind of nothing to play, and we were looking for something. We thought, oh, do you know what? Let's just give it a try. Let's give it a go. And it turned out to be just incredible. It turned out to be such a good experience. Now, you and me, Spence, we've done the 2-player co-op, and we've done the entire lot on bronze, and we've moved our way. We're halfway through silver at the moment. And what I really like is the way that it progresses in terms of the difficulty is not just a case of enemies do more damage, they got more health. You've got extra objectives to do. And it kind of deepens the overall experience. And I've just found that for a mode that they added in for free for all players, I can see why everyone's been hyping up about this for so long, because it actually is great. And then what happened is when we got 4 of us together, so we got Willard and Phil involved, and the 4 of us went into the survival, the game just went into a whole other level for me. Because those survivals are just incredible. They're so tactical and also just really fun. It's just a great gameplay experience.
So for those who don't know, Ghost of Tsushima Legends is the co-op mode for Ghost of Tsushima, where you basically take on wave after wave after wave of enemies. And you have certain objectives to achieve within that time, but mostly it's just killing bad guys. So you take on one of 4 different character sets. So you pick either the samurai, the hunter, the ronin, or the assassin. Each of us picked a different one, which was worked out quite well, lads. I was the hunter with the bow, so I was standing back because I've not played the single player, but you guys very much carried me, I felt, throughout the nights. But it was very enjoyable for someone who would, first off, never played the game before and just jumped in for a bit of multiplayer action.
Yeah, I was playing the standard samurai class, and that was just a fantastic experience. I mean, it's just exactly the same as the base game, really, other than the fact that with the base game, you've got your choice of stances that you switch between. In this, your stances are tied to weapons. And I think that's just a really good change because it means you're not busted against everything. You've got to kind of pick what you're going to be great versus. Using the moon stance, you're going to be great against brutes. But then maybe you don't have the stone stance, which is for sword users. And so you've got to kind of pick what you want to be efficient in. It's just fantastic gameplay design. What about you, Spence? What were you playing as?
When we all got together, I started playing as the Ronin, I think it was. And the Ronin is he's kind of the healer of the group, but he's not at the same time. I mean, the only healing aspect he has is his ultimate ability. And all it does is when, say you boys are down, I pop it and it instantly revives anyone who's down. So I'm kind of the guy where if it's getting dire, if it's getting a bit rough, maybe I'll back off, let you guys take the brunt. and then I'll come in clutch at the end. But Ronin's fun, and because we're playing, obviously it's a PlayStation title, we all get exclusive armor sets from different PlayStation experiences. So as the Ronin, I get the Bloodborne armor set, so I'm the Yharnam set, which is cool as fuck. It's just phenomenal experience throughout. I want to play now.
I think, Phil, you're playing with the Horizon set, if I remember rightly.
I know, and I still gave it a 9 out of 10. I love that game.
And I'm playing with the Kratos skin, so it's just a great time. It's a fantastic experience. If you have slept on this game like we have on the podcast, take our word for it. It is well worth a download and for checking out, because you have missed out. I wish we'd found out and really gave this game a try a lot earlier than we did. Now, speaking of ghosts, guys, if you remember last episode, I had COVID and I wasn't feeling like gaming very much. Turns out 2 days later, I was feeling totally tip-top, but I was still testing positive, so it meant no work for me. So it was kind of the best situation I could possibly be in. In that time, I completed Jedi Fallen Order. I then decided to actually play Ghost of Tsushima through. For those that have an incredible memory, probably this time last year, I started Ghost of Tsushima and I got 15 hours in and stopped. And the reason why I stopped was because Resident Evil Village came out. And that was it then. And it sat on my shelf for an entire year, waiting for me, calling to me like a siren on the rocks, beckoning me towards an open world experience again. And I thought, oh God, I've only just done Elden Ring, I've just done Horizon, I can't stand another one. Guys, I've got the platinum. It took me 70 hours to do everything in that game, which you need to do for the platinum. Holy hell.
You know, earlier I said you can't go back to back. Well, listeners, viewers, guess what Davey's done? He's gone back to back to back. My God, mate. How do you do it?
COVID is how I did it. I had so much spare time on my hands. I was getting up every morning and just sitting there on the PlayStation in my pajamas, in my pants, and just gaming. It felt like I was in my early 20s again. It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. And I tell you what, guys, crazy to say, right? Comparing Ghost to Horizon, Ghost is a better game. It's a better game on pretty much every single level. The story on this game is phenomenal. It's so good. And the combat doesn't get boring, ever. It just gets deeper and more intricate. And the armor sets that you get, which change your abilities, change your playstyle. And I'm now in the director's cut, the Icky content for PS5. And holy hell, they've taken the base experience and they've added this extra story on, which makes it feel completely unique, while also adding these extra armor sets, which totally change how you play. So now, on this armor set I've just found, from doing this side quest, I have the ability where I cannot do a normal block. I have to parry. But if I parry, I get 3 hits which kill an enemy outright. So it's this risk-reward, and it just really puts all the skills I've learned over 70 hours on test. And it's really just opened my eyes for this game is phenomenal. It is actually incredible. And anybody who slept on this like I have, like we were talking about the Legends content, get on it. It's not the best game on PlayStation 4. It's not as good as The Last of Us 2, but god damn, it's close. It's so good. To go from Infamous to this is such a step up, and I just wish that they would take the lessons they've learned from Ghost and reapply that back to Infamous, because holy hell, phenomenal game. Loved every single moment of it.
That is high praise. But Davey, I'm begging you, please don't add that to my backlog. I'm looking behind me, I'm thinking, now I've finished Horizon, what do I play next? I've got so many options, and I'm sure if I ask you, you'd probably say Ghosts now, wouldn't you?
I would, yes, I would. As I said, it's not the best game on PlayStation 4 when it originally launched. I think that God of War and I think Last of Us 2 are better than it. But to even remotely be in contention, to be even remotely in the same conversation is testament to how good of an experience it is. I would thoroughly recommend it to both of you. I think even with open world fatigue, it's well worth a shot. And with the director's cut content and how good that game looks on PlayStation 5, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Honestly, you really do. It's an absolute joy.
Well, I know what I'm getting in November then.
Yeah, definitely. Your birthday's only around the corner, mate. in the grand scheme. And I suppose the last thing that we need to talk about on this is we decided to dive back in to Deep Rock Galactic. And we've played that for one big session. I think we did about 3 or 4 hours on it the other night. What are your thoughts on this one, Phil? You were the one always badgering us to when we dig in, boys. You started off with Rockin' Stone. You adore this game. An extra 4 hours into it, how do you feel it's progressed from where we left off last time?
Mate, I cannot wipe the smile off my face when I talk about this game. And here's another one. Rockin' Stone! The game is just incredible. For something that we got free, technically, with PS Plus. I'm loving it. I really want us to go back in and play some more of the game. Every time we go onto a new mission set, and even the one we revisited for Spencer, because I think one of the sessions we played, he wasn't available. It's just great. It's just so much fun. It's great. Get in there with a couple of buddies. It's so unique. There's so many different creatures that you come across. I think one of them was it called Nemesis? Or no, that's Horizon, isn't it? What was it called?
No, it was called Nemesis. Yeah, it was a giant robot.
Oh Christ, they've used the same name.
Yeah, when we encountered it for the first time, downed us all immediately. We were all like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, there's so many surprises along the way, and as I said, I cannot wait for the next time we dig in to Deep Rock Galactic.
Just going to follow on with what Phil said. That Nemesis enemy, Jesus Christ, boys. Oh my God. We spawned in, we lasted all of about 4 seconds, and I had a perk on that meant if I got grabbed, I was released. That meant I lasted an extra 4 seconds, because I got grabbed again straight after. We were unprepared. And then obviously next try, we went in, and we did the job, boys. We beat that Nemesis. I died, you boys beat Nemesis. But then we did the mission, and we came through. Goated experience. That game, the more we play it, the better it gets. Because obviously as we're getting better at the game ourselves, as we're leveling up, we're going into harder expeditions, let's say. The game's just getting better and better. And, rock me like a stone, boys. I want to play that game again.
I gotta say, we're eternally blessed on the PlayStation Nation because we've had this absolute smorgasbord of games landing on our lap every single week, every single month. We're getting something new. And it's too much. And now we're in this glut where we don't have anything to play. And now we're able to go back and play these experiences that we've either not played before or that we just kind of have left by the wayside and experience them. Myself personally, find a new appreciation for these games that we've had either on PlayStation Plus or that I've just had in the back catalogue. And I think every year should always just have a couple of months where there's just nothing. God, I'd love an entire year where there's nothing just to really catch up on everything. But that's never going to happen. So I'm appreciative that we got this couple of months now with nothing coming out and we can just do what we want to do. And I think that's always a good time.
What I was going to say is, isn't it funny that, as a PlayStation owner, you're hoping for a month where PlayStation don't release a AAA must play? Because you can go back and play some of those games that you might have missed or you might have finished early for an experience that on the podcast everyone's talking about. So I'm going to take this opportunity to go back to Guardians and finish that game. That's going to be the game that I'm going to finish off during this little lull in PlayStation. If I'm over on the Xbox side of things, I'm like, when are the games coming out? When are the games coming out? On PlayStation, I'm like, guys, can you hold off a month? I need some time.
Well, I think the next big one we got coming out, I say big one for me anyway, is Stray. That's supposed to be coming out in summer. So I'll look forward to that. That's the next big one that I'm really hyped for. But until then, it's just free season, boys. I'm just going to want to get down in those mines, get down and dirty with you boys, start digging for some treasures and killing some bugs. Rockin' Stone!
Rockin' Stone!
Rockin' Stone!
Now let's move it on to medium news. Quick news.
We have hit that part of the show which we call quick news. Or this time, we call medium news, because we're going to branch out a little bit on certain topics. Some of them may be traditional quick news. Some of them, we're going to go medium news. But recently, we've been including some stipulations where each time we've got to do certain impressions. And this week, we're going for cartoon impressions. So, Spencer, I want to hear your best Transformers impression.
Okay. Autobots, roll out. That's a terrible Optimus Prime, Jesus Christ. Medium news. The PS Plus lineup for May 2022. The first game we have is FIFA 22, coming out on the PS4 and PS5. We have Tribes of Midgard, also on the PS4 and the 5. And we have Curse of the Dead Gods being our only PS4 title for this month. To be fair, boys, I think phenomenal month. We can play other games. What do you boys rate this month?
I mean, for me, Spence, not looking great, if I'm honest with you. I think FIFA 22 is a great addition. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy about that. FIFA, as we know, obviously sells an absolute bucket ton every single year. So to get that into the hands of the people like myself who do not buy FIFA, and just to say to you guys, oh, do you know what? Let's try Cardiff City against Real Madrid. That's always going to be a bit of fun. You know, maybe not for me playing Cardiff, but for you guys, I'm sure you'll love scoring, 10-0. But yeah, I think overall I give it probably a 6 out of 10. There's just not much for me in this, but I can appreciate for everyone else it's probably a really strong month. Don't know about yourself though, Phil.
I'm still laughing because you said 10-0. For people who watch football, that would have been 10-0. But as much as I'm a football fan, I'm not really a FIFA player. I don't really play sports games at all. So the game in that lineup that sticks out to me is Tribes of Midgard. I very much picked that, I think, on one of our previous episodes as a game to watch or something I was relatively interested in. So I think we'll try and play that because that's multiplayer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like a dungeon crawler. So you're all kind of just going in and Vikings, exploring the world. The only experience I have with this game is when it was shown back, I think it was at the Summer Games Fest, I think it was at Summer Games Fest it was shown last year. And it didn't really appeal to me then. I know we discussed it on the show at the time. And I know this is something that actually stood out to you a little bit. You were quite excited about this. I think it made your Shag, Marry, Kill. But for me, it wasn't anywhere near it. It maybe is something that after we're done with digging, maybe we then go in and check it out. And sure, it's free. Why not? Give it a go. And who knows, it may end up being Ghost of Tsushima Legends for us, It could end up being that next big thing that we really enjoy getting into and see all the way through. But I'm feeling quite doubtful about it.
I think I can understand why you're feeling quite doubtful after your review of the remaster of Diablo. And I think that's probably what is informing and tainting your view of this game before you've played it. So I'm very much up for it, as you said. You are correct. It was in my Shag, Marry, Kill, and I believe it was probably a shag because it's quite an interesting game to me. There seems to be some quite unique boss battles in it, definitely. So if we get through digging, obviously I love a bit of rock and stone, then possibly we'll play a little bit of that in the upcoming weeks.
Listeners, you may have noticed that Spencer has just appeared next to me. Well, the reason for that is because the laptop that we were using to record all of a sudden just died. So we're going to dive straight back into the show. And if there is a difference in audio quality, I really apologize. But we didn't come prepared with an audio splitter. So you got the best it's going to be right now. We're making the best out of a bad situation. And also, because my camera auto picks up my skin color and tries to match the lighting to that, it's now thrown it all off. So now I look like I am under some insane lighting or that I'm wearing makeup. And neither of those are true. Not too much makeup anyway. Just enough to, hide the wrinkles, hide the crow's feet, which are creeping in now at the tender age of 33. But anyway, back to the show. Spencer, you were supposed to pass it now on to the next person, which I believe is actually myself.
Oh, you.
I think, yeah. So what kind of arrangement are you looking for on this?
Seeing as you besmirched it earlier, my friend, Pokemon.
Right, so you're saying take it to Pokemon. So when I'm thinking about Pokemon, this gives me a perfect opportunity to show off what I was saying about last time, which is my Bulbasaur impression. So I'm going to just go for it straight off the bat. Bulbasaur! I'm really happy with that.
That was good.
I reckon that's a 10 out of 10 if I'm calling it myself. Anyway, quick news. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 will reportedly not release on PS4 and Xbox One, instead being exclusive to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Great news for me. Personally, I think the quicker we can move away from the last generation, the better. So this is only good stuff. Now, Phil, I want to hear your best DD impression from Dexter's Lab.
I haven't got a clue what she sounds like. I do remember part of the theme tune.
Okay, I'll accept that.
And that's the bit that goes, in Dexter's laboratory, laboratory, laboratory. But it's probably not that, is it? I've just remembered it completely wrong. Medium news. Insomniac have released a Marvel Spider-Man remasters update. This is after Sony's announcement that PS5 PS5 VRR variable refresh rate will be supported going forward. This update includes the before-mentioned VRR support for the game when in 120Hz mode is on a slightly increased dynamic resolution, increased frame rate for fidelity mode for 40 FPS, and reduced input latency. Also, the input improves the ray tracing reflections at glancing angles in low dynamic resolution screens. Very complex stuff. So if you haven't got the platinum for Marvel's Spider-Man, it might be time to jump back in and watch that game shine on PS5. So guys, my understanding of VRR and that technology, it smooths out the frame rate. So even when the frame rate fluctuates, you don't see it. What games do you think would benefit from this?
I think for me, the easy one really to jump to is Bloodborne. Bloodborne hasn't had a next-gen patch, so we're still sitting playing it on 30, even on PS5. So at least with VRR, this might be the way to be able to push it up. And, get it on 60, get it on 120. These Spider-Man screens are insane when people are playing it on like 109 FPS and stuff with ray tracing. Just insane. Now, I know there's a massive article about this from Digital Foundry, and it's way over my head. I mean, Christ. We were looking at different ways to be output sound on a PC, and I'm completely stuffed, right? So we're doing this without headphones, so I understand it. So it's way above my pay grade, that's for damn sure. But that's the one that jumps to my mind straight away. I don't know about you, Spence.
It's just any game that is still capped at 30 would benefit from this. In the sense of if it's not like constant 30, there are some games that, especially on like PS4, if say they're upgraded now, they're locked at 30, but they dip. And then noticeable dips, or any of those games that are hard to run, because of those dips, if it matches, it will just look like constant 30. It's nothing but a benefit for any game. Even if the game already looks smooth, it will just... I wouldn't say it'd make it look smoother, it'd keep it smooth. So there's kind of not a single game that wouldn't benefit from this. But Bloodborne, Jesus, Bloodborne is a hell of an example. I'd love to see it.
What about yourself, Phil? Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, after watching the video that you mentioned from Digital Foundry, they mentioned Gran Turismo because apparently there was a lot of dips there and it was quite noticeable, especially in the heavy rain kind of situations. Heavy Rain, obviously a classic game. We need to go back to that at some point, possibly a spoiler cast from the past when we finish Dino Crisis, which is coming very soon, guys. Cannot wait for that. So that would probably be my pick because that seems to be what the experts are saying anyway. Spencer, I want to hear your best Naruto impression.
Naruto, we're going into anime.
It's just a Japanese cartoon.
Oh,
Grow up, mate.
They're called anime though, aren't they?
Grow up.
I was just going to cartoons you would know.
What's that movie uses? He goes, Rasengan! And he throws it's a little shit spirit ball, and it's basically his only attack, I think. Medium news. So guys, this is a game to watch for all of you. There's a new game, the next-gen only RPG Thymesia, I hope that's how it's pronounced, it probably isn't. It's going to launch its punishing combat into the hands of willing players on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on August 9th. Don't know what cartoons you watch.
That's part of the joy of it, isn't it? Just chucking something on that I have no idea about.
I'd like to hear your best Powerpuff Girls.
Okay, alright. I know the Powerpuff Girls really well. Do I have to do a Powerpuff Girl, or can I do someone from the franchise?
It's whatever you want, mate.
Alright. Mojo Jojo! Medium news. Gameplay from Ubisoft's pirate game Skull and Bones has leaked online, giving us a look at several mechanics including naval combat and on-foot exploration. Skull and Bones was first revealed 5 years ago in 2017, but suffered delay after delay, and as of July last year, has reportedly been in development for 8 years. Now, it's unclear which version of the game this technical test build, which is what this footage is from, as Skull and Bones received a major reboot before entering an alpha stage in July of 2021. Ubisoft invited some players to test an early version last month, and this is what's led to that leaked gameplay. You combine this with the fact that rumours are currently swirling around Ubisoft, as they are apparently looking to be purchased by private equity firms after their share price dropped a massive 41% over the last year, with games not selling and then a toxic workplace. Things aren't looking great for Ubisoft right now. And I gotta say, for me personally, Skull and Bones can get in the bin. All they needed to do was release Black Flag, the co-op multiplayer experience. That's all this needs to be. It needs to just be pirates that you go off and do Assassin's Creed-y stuff, but you do it in co-op. But instead they say, no, you're just a ship. You're a ship, and you can go off at certain points. Nobody wants that. I want to jump in the sea with my boys. I want to go digging for treasure. I want to be just going down into the briny depths of sea dogs. And if I can't do that, fuck it off. In the bin. Does anyone else care about this?
No.
Phil, any thoughts on Skull and Bones?
For me, Davey, I've never been a big fan of that sort of series anyway, so it's just definitely a no. I'm just not even interested. I've been thinking about my next stipulation for the impression for Spencer. That's what I've been thinking about, so good luck on your next one, Spence.
So Phil, I want to hear your best impression of Johnny Bravo.
This one's a quick news. The day before the open world survival MMO, currently sitting at the top of Steam's most wishlisted game chart, is switching to Unreal 5 engine, but will be delayed until March 1st, 2023 as a result. Now, Spencer, this one would be a real easy one for me and Davey. I want to hear your best X-Men impression. And you can sing the theme tune if you know it.
Are you serious? Bro, how young do you think I am? Ba-na-ma-na-na-na-na. Ba-na-ma-na-ma-na-na. Ba-na-ma-na-ma-na-na. Ba-na-da-na. Ba-na-ba-na-ba-na-na. 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 Da-na-ba-na. Dun 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 dun. Bro, that was my ringtone for like 2 years.
It's my ringtone now.
What a belter. Medium news. Sony has confirmed it's disabled PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now subscription stacking ahead of the upcoming revamp of its membership services. Sony reportedly now requires some PlayStation developers to make time-limited game demos for Plus Premium. The game demos are supposed to be at least 2 hours long. They're required for games that are going to cost over $34, and a demo needs to be ready 3 months prior to the release of the game. So you boys are planning your cartoons ahead of time. I think on the fly, that's my issue. That's my downfall. That's where I lack. Tell you what, it's one for you, mate. It's one for you. I know you'll love it. Give me your best Trunks.
Okay, alright. Trunks from Dragon Ball Z fame, of course. Ah! Hey, Frieza! Ah! Medium news. So, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. A tweet from Garrett Fredley, sorry, I know I'm butchering that, I butcher all the names on here, set the internet ablaze. His tweet states, "Today is my first day as a senior build engineer at PlayStation, working as one of their initial hires for the newly created Preservation Team." He's super excited. With the new tiers to PS Plus adding legacy systems to the PS5, it's about damn time Sony take game preservation seriously, and we can only hope they crack PS3 emulation soon. Now, guys, I gotta know on this. Do you think this new game preservation team is a big deal when it comes to Sony's back catalogue and the future of the new PS Plus tiers, especially with the latter tiers, which include this kind of backwards legacy content? Phil, what do you reckon?
Well, you love to hear it, don't you? You love to hear someone coming in and being passionate about this stuff. Because I'm passionate. You're passionate. Spencer's passionate. We're on a fucking PlayStation podcast. And yes, I've dropped the F-bomb. This is a big deal. I cannot wait, if I decide to subscribe to the higher tier, to go back and experience those older games. So to get someone going out on Twitter, putting their name out in lights, I think it's only a positive thing.
What about yourself, Spence?
I think a preservation team, I mean, how many teams can they make? A preservation team's fine. I'm glad we finally have one. I'm not sure what they're going to do. An engineer, senior build engineer at PlayStation, sounds like he's working on hardware to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You have a build for software stuff, though, don't you? You have different builds. You have like an alpha build, a beta build, Charlie build, I guess.
I mean, yeah, you do. But I don't know. It just, to me, it speaks like hardware, but obviously we don't know exactly what it is, I'd imagine. If it is a software-esque role, then yeah, I'm glad we have it. I hope it leads to trophies being implemented on the past games. That's all I ask. But hopefully it means that we get stable builds of games we never thought could move over here, namely PlayStation 3 titles. And that's all I ask out of Garrett Fredley.
Yeah. Garrett, just do your magic, mate. Just literally just whatever it takes to get Resistance back on PlayStation 5. That's all I need, well, that and trophies on PS1 games. Come on, man. Just make it happen. Jesus Christ. How many times do I have to ask the same thing over and over again? Leave that in the middle, all right? it's like being with my son. And just like, don't pick that up. That's not for you. You've done pretty good on some of these impressions, so I'm going to chuck you another one that I'm hoping for the best for. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. This is going to be something that I think you're going to thrive with. And ultimately, I want to see you thrive. I want to see you spread those wings and just go soar. I want to see you soar. And so because of that, I want to hear your best Thundercats impression. That's a cartoon of your age.
It is, but I don't remember the theme tune just off the top of my head. It's not the one I really enjoyed. Thundercats. Oh, I remember what Lion-O says, so let's go for that. Thunder, 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 Thundercats. Oh! Quick news. Own Dying Light? Well, congratulations. Starting today, you own the Enhanced Edition. This is amazing news, as it includes Dying Light, The Following, which is a huge expansion, and 4 separate DLC pack, guys. Okay, Spencer, I want to hear your best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I said ninja, not hero, Turtles impression. Because I know you're a big fan, you've got the Donatello bling, so let's hear it.
I want to grab the mic so bad. Bro, I haven't watched TMNT since I was like 6.
It's been a long time for
I
me.
can't remember the theme, which is rare for me. I always remember themes.
You can't remember the theme?
No.
What the hell?
Oh, wait, no. Teenage Mutant
Can't
Ninja
remember the theme.
Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Heroes in a Half Shell.
Turtle Power.
Turtles in a Half Shell. Hero Power.
I do remember. It took me a minute. Okay,
They're
Not
the
gonna do
world's
anymore.
most fearsome fighting
Fighting
team.
team.
Fuck it up.
Yes. They're heroes in a half shell and they're green. I'm sure that's the lyrics.
Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines. Do
Oh, I can't remember what. Oh,
you know the next line?
I can't remember what.
Raphael is cool but rude, give me a break.
Oh.
Michelangelo is a party
Party
dude.
dude.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Turtles in a half shell. Turtle power.
There you go. That's how it's done. You're gonna get marked down for that one.
Yo!
I'll take it, yeah. Medium news, boys. Prince of Persia is in development hell. Ubisoft game The Prince of Persia The Sands of Time remake was first announced in September 2020 with a release date of January 2021. It seemed like everything was set as various retailers had listings and pre-order bonuses up. However, in December 2020, Ubisoft announced that the game would be delayed to March 18th, 2021. Then when February 2021 rolled around, Ubisoft announced that it had been delayed once again, however this time indefinitely.
Oh. How are you feeling about this one? Are you excited about it? Eventually? When it eventually arrives in 10 years' time?
I was excited. I remember when it got announced. The Sands of Time is one of the first games I remember playing. Because I remember when I had my hand-me-down PS2 for my brother. Oh, no, actually, I think it was my PS2, but he came over and played. I remember we played Prince of Persia, and it starts, and you're on the boat, and he gets his face slashed, and he goes, bitch! And obviously, I was like 8. So I was like, oh my god, he said bitch. Oh. And that memory is locked in my mind forever. So when I saw this remake, I thought, that's hype. I'd actually love to play that.
Yeah.
And then I never heard anything ever again.
Oh, that's a different one, Phil. So Phil, for the audio listeners, Phil's showing us the remake they did of Prince of Persia. It's kind of like a relaunch they did. This is the good ones, Phil. So this is the ones on PS2, the first one of the PS2 generation. And it was a big deal at the time, be able to rewind time. I remember that being massive. And I never played it myself. I played the demo, but I sweated that demo. It was in that time when, you're doing like, what had I been doing? Paper Round at that time. And I couldn't afford it. And I didn't have a chip PS2. So it was just demos were my life back then, playing them over and over and over again. And a game that I always wanted to play. So much like you, I was excited about this news. But this is just going on forever. And now with it basically restarting development with a new team, I don't think we're seeing this for years. We're not seeing this for a long time. I think this is going to go the same way, unfortunately, as Beyond Good and Evil. And And Beyond Good and Evil, we're not going to see that probably in my lifetime. I imagine it's going to be something that Cass, my son, is going to grow up and he'll hear this myth that's been passed down from generation to generation about Beyond Good and Evil and how all of a sudden now it's 2050 and Ubisoft is saying, oh, just to let you know, thank you for everyone that joined the membership program where you can submit your own art to be included in the game. We've now got to the point where we started somebody on the process of turning that art into game assets. And then we'll have to wait until E3 2077 until we see some actual first gameplay footage because it ain't happening.
It'll probably come out at the same time as Dead Island, potentially.
Yeah. I think you're probably right on that one, to be honest, Phil. I can't see it happening for a long time. For those who didn't know, you were showing us just then a couple of your Prince of Persia games that you own, and you own the sequel, I think, to Sands of Time that you were showing us. So are you excited then about this if it eventually ever comes to fruition?
Considering I only own 2 of the games and I don't own the best version of the game, I'm not that excited. But it does pique my interest a little bit, considering I own some Prince of Persia games, but I haven't played the best one. So if this does come out far in the future, potentially I'll pick this up. You know, I do remember the game. I do have fond memories of the Prince of Persia franchise. So if it comes out at the right period, you know, and we're not playing anything AAA, we're not playing anything big, then potentially I'll pick that up.
So, Davey, I'm going to choose a cartoon I think you might not have seen. However, you should, because it's phenomenal. And it was my favourite cartoon growing up. I say growing up when I was like 9. When people were watching live action Disney, I was still watching cartoons, and this is what I was watching.
Okay.
It's Ben 10.
Ben 10.
Ben 10.
Ben 10's a bitch, man.
Ben 10's sick, bro.
Ben 10. He's got a watch on, right?
The Omnitrix.
The Omnitrix. All right. Sweet. I reckon he does something like this, right? Ready? I reckon he does a rotation. I reckon he does a rotation around it for no reason at all. And then just literally presses like 5 different places and then goes, go, go, Rockman. And then a Rockman comes out, right? He's got 10 forms. I imagine it's a rock guy. Go, go. I reckon he definitely says go, go. Go, go, rock. 10. And then boom. It's Ben 10 Rockman. Coming in for my next bit of media news. Sifu has had an update which is live right now for you all to enjoy. It comes with 2 different difficulty modes which have been added to the game. So if you want to play the base experience, that's fine. You can do that and still have the same rock hard experience that we all had. If you want to take it down a notch, you can take it to easy. Or if you want to really challenge yourself, you can take it to hard. Now, I know that you and me have tried this, Spence, on hard, and we got our asses kicked. Now, you did a lot better than I did, so, I don't want to put you down here. But this is fantastic news, and it just gives people that have already experienced the game an extra time to dive in and re-challenge themselves and kind of relearn the game to a certain extent. But for those that have struggled with it and been put off by it, it gives you an option to go in at a difficulty that's easier for you. There's a full content roadmap that's going to be coming out over the course of this year, so there's a lot more for you Kung Fu masters out there to get excited by. And I'm very excited about that, guys. Phil, for the final bit of Medium News, I'm passing it over to yourself, of course, and I want to hear your best impression of SpongeBob SquarePants, a classic Nickelodeon character.
Considering I grew up on Nickelodeon, so Ren and Stimpy, that was my go-to. I've never, ever watched SpongeBob SquarePants, so I haven't got a clue what he says, what he does. I understand what he looks like, because he's referenced all the time, but I don't know what he sounds like.
You don't know his theme song at all?
Not a clue.
Just give us what you'd imagine SpongeBob sounds like. That's going to be the best way of doing this. What do you imagine a sponge with buck teeth sounds like? I want to hear it.
SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants. Quick news. Intel expects chip shortages impacting PS5, Xbox, and PC GPU available to last until 2024, guys.
So following the last bit of medium news here, it's time for us to crown a winner, for us to set aside our differences and come up with a decision on who did the best and who did the worst. So I suppose actually instead of setting aside them, we're actually just deepening down on those differences and really picking on someone, whoever did the worst. Phil, I think it's only right to come across to yourself first to lay the groundwork for who you think did the best and who you think did the worst. Lay it on me. What did he just say English then?
Lay it on me.
Go on then.
I will lay it on you. So my best, and the one that made me laugh the hardest, was your Mojo Jojo impression. And it still makes me giggle thinking about it now. So I'm giving you the W. And I'm sorry, Spencer, this is becoming a little bit of a repeating kind of situation here. I'm giving you the L because both your Transformers, why didn't you go for, you got the touch, you got the power. You didn't go for anything with the Transformers, but that's not your worst one. Your worst one was the Turtles. You have a Turtles chain. Why don't you know the theme tune? Big fat L. Sorry, Spence.
Great point. That's a good point. Have you got any retorts? Do you want to go next, Spence?
I mean, it took me a minute, but I did remember it eventually. And obviously, I don't know the whole thing because I was probably like, well, how old were you boys watching Turtles? How old the fuck do you think I was? I was in the womb. All right, I think my favorite one, Phil, I think my favorite one is your Johnny Bravo. Just because I like the little hair at the end. I like the little hair whip at the end.
It was kinetic, wasn't it?
It was kinetic.
It was kinetic, yeah.
But then that makes this kind of hard because you were also the worst one because that SpongeBob was diabolical and I can't believe you don't know the theme.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I'm 37.
So SpongeBob, I think.
Yeah, he probably is, yeah. Yeah, okay, this one's very tricky because Phil definitely did the worst one in my opinion, which is SpongeBob.
Seeing as my impression was so bad, can you give me a good impression of SpongeBob?
Sure, I'll give you his laugh.
I did that as well, yeah.
Or
what about the theme song? Because that's what I tried to do.
Oh, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. Yellow and porous is he. SpongeBob SquarePants. His nautical nonsense be something you wish. SpongeBob SquarePants. So flop on the deck. No, to get on the deck and flop like a fish. SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob SquarePants.
Okay.
SpongeBob
Okay.
SquarePants.
I was the worst.
So, yeah, that one sucked. But then I really liked your Lion-O because you just committed to it for such a long time. So it just kind of peak it up again. So I think with my one, it kind of puts you at an even keel because you had the best and the worst. And I think, so you've gone for the same with Phil. So you're at so unfortunately, Spencer, I think it kind of means you got the worst again because you just got a negative. So yeah, you took a straight L, whereas Phil kind of leveled. So I did the best this time. You've done the worst and Phil's leveled out. So that's the way the cookies crumble today.
So that brings us up when it comes to shots. I've still got 5 to hand out from the big quiz because I was the winner. Spence, you've got 2 from Davy's big quiz. I've got 2 from Davy's big quiz. And Spence, now you have 2 from losing both of the Pokemon impressions for your Charmander and now the cartoon impressions for your just not knowing the Turtles theme song. So well deserved. You've got a bunch of shots as soon as we start drinking properly.
And let's move it on to Rumour Has It.
Kick it! You wake up with a rumour and you don't want to go. You ask if it's confirmed and they still say no.
So boys, we're on to the rumours, and rumour has it, Warner Bros. Discovery is reportedly interested in selling its gaming studios and IP licenses. Xbox, Sony and EA are supposedly among the handful interested in making a deal. So following this boys, my question to you, how much do you think Warner Bros. Discovery are really worth? Do you think it's a big acquisition? Phil, mate, what do you think of this?
Well, when I think of Warner Brothers, the games that stick out to me, I suppose the NetherRealm games, because those are the games that I've actually played. I'm not a big Lego fan. I know they do all the Lego Batman games, the Lego Star Wars games. Of course, they took over Back 4 Blood from Valve. Unfortunate that they didn't do too well with that IP, didn't they? I'm probably not going to go too high on this one, considering what Activision sold for to Xbox, which was 68.7 billion. Sony acquired Insomniac for 229. I'm going much lower than these two. I'm probably going to stick around the 100 million probably for this sort of company because they've got a big back catalogue. There's a lot of games there, but I probably don't hold these games in such high regard as I would with Insomniac games or Activision games. So I don't think they'll meet that sort of figure.
With acquisitions the way they are today, I'd say that's a low ballpark figure. For me especially, I think that's extremely low. Although Sony acquired Insomniac for 229 mil, that was a while ago, and that was before acquisitions kind of became the trend. I think now, for me, I would see them being purchased, even though I don't care about this studio or anything they make. I could see it being above $1 billion, maybe even above $2 billion. Davey, mate, what do you reckon?
I reckon you guys are both lowballing this. Crazy lowballing this, actually. Like, you think about the studios you got there, right? You got NetherRealm. They make the most popular fighting game on the planet. Mortal Kombat sells an absolute fortune.
It's a fighting game.
Yes.
It's not Ratchet and Clank.
I guarantee you that Mortal Kombat sold more than Ratchet and Clank. Guarantee you. I would put that money down.
Run the tune.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's run it up. Let's run it up, baby. I don't have a fucking clue. Nothing else to do. So that's all ask Google. So comparing the two, Phil, crunching the numbers, Ratchet and Clank, and we already know how many games they have in their franchise because I think it was one of my questions I raised, and it was pretty much an endless list. They've sold a total of 26 million. Mortal Kombat, 73 million over its franchise run. It is an absolute monster. And you think Mortal Kombat 11 sold over 12 million units in itself, let alone Injustice, let alone everything else that they do. Now, Mortal Kombat might not be the best fighting game on the market. It might not even be the favourite of the majority of players. That would probably be under Street Fighter's banner. But in terms of its casual audience, it's massive because people like to see blood and guts and some crazy cinematic stuff. And ultimately, they got a great story to back it up. So I think when you look at the studios we got here, parking just outside of NetherRealm, looking at Rocksteady, the Batman games are phenomenal. They're huge and they sell gangbusters. They become some of the best games on the platforms when they release from Rocksteady. Now, sure, we got another year to go until we get the Suicide Squad game. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. But I think in those two studios itself, you're talking big, top-budget studios that have the same kind of prestige as any studio in the industry, in my opinion. Now, Avalanche and Monolith, they're a step down, especially with Avalanche, in my opinion. But we got Portkey Games in there as well, and we were all really impressed with the work on the new Harry Potter game that we've seen footage for. So, who knows? I think the only thing that goes against this deal, and that does impact the worth of it, is because it's tied, most of them are tied quite heavily to licenses. So when you buy the studios for Rocksteady, they've been making Batman games. That's all under the DC banner, which is part of Warner Bros. So if you're stripping that away, they'll have to renegotiate for that license. Same when you're talking about Traverse Tales with the Lego series. They're all based around working with Lego Batman, Lego Star Wars. You've got to go through all the rigmarole of that. But in terms of the pure talent that teams have, I think it's there. It's just a shame that those licenses won't obviously go with them, so that will harm the total value. You were saying, what, 10 bill? You were saying, Spence, 10 bill that you were thinking for this deal?
I said like 1 or 2.
1 or 2? That's ludicrous. Yeah, I reckon this is easily a 20 bill. Easily a 20 billion deal. For the amount of studios you've got here, the amount of talent you've got in these teams, I think that's an easy. I think 10 bill is a reasonable offer as well. Kind of lowballing it there. I think 10 bill, but I can see it going for more than that.
Google's a terrible thing, isn't it? Because I've Googled that exact question and it's come out with quite an accurate answer to it. It says the Warner Brothers games with a possible price tag of $4 billion.
Wow. Well, I suppose we'll have to wait and see on that. So, guys, are you actually excited in this? I think for me personally, I would be really excited by this, especially with NetherRealm and Rocksteady. If we could somehow get those as part of the family, if we could get like Mortal Kombat and have them be a PlayStation studio. Obviously, they've worked really closely with NetherRealm in the past, having all the official tournaments on PlayStation. So I can see that relationship being there. I would love for Warner Bros. To be part of us, to get some of these teams get Rocksteady under the studio banner. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine having that studio with that amount of prestige? So you got, Insomniac doing the great games in Wolverine and in Spider-Man, and then you've got the guys who made freaking Batman, the other side of the whenever you're talking about the best superhero games, it's up for two things: Spider-Man and Batman. And those are the two best. So if you can get both of those studios under your banner, Jesus Christ, that is a massive, massive deal. I would be over the moon with this. Don't know about yourself though, Spence.
I mean, you make huge points. I think I'd be over the moon with it as well. However, I don't know if we're saying $4 billion is the estimate. I don't think Sony spend as much as Xbox do.
No.
And I think that is the issue there. As great as this purchase would be for Sony, and it would be a massive one, it'd be huge. I just don't know if they'd be willing to fork out that much cash when they already have some of the best acquisitions ever acquisitioned. They don't need them. However, it would kind of just be fucking Xbox over to buy them, because then they're like, we have all the comic games, we have the most popular fighting game, we have everything you need to compete with us. It's ours. You're already losing. Now you're in the ground.
I mean, and I gotta say, last thing you want is locking these games off to other systems, right? You don't want that to happen. I wouldn't want it to be a case that Mortal Kombat isn't accessible on PC or on Xbox, especially not on Xbox. But at the same time, if I could get NetherRealm working on a PlayStation kind of like just PlayStation focused fighting game, not so much like a Smash one, but an actual fighting game, but with PlayStation characters, holy hell. Can you imagine how hype that would be? That would be insane.
I guess for you, David, the ideal outcome of this would be if EA buy the franchise then, purely because they would be able to push it out to both Sony and Xbox if you wanted to be that idealistic kind of person there and have it available on both consoles. But for me, I'm probably a traditionalist, right? I quite want Xbox to buy it because you've got all the Marvel stuff going to Sony. You've got all the DC stuff going to Xbox, and then you've got that battle.
You just want to see that reignition of the eternal conflict between Marvel and DC. Yeah, I can see that. It's very thematic as well, isn't it? Can you imagine the fanboys would go crazy with that? Someone saying, "Oh, we got Batman," and they're like, "We got Spider-Man." They're like, "No one cares about Spider-Man. It's all about the Bat. I am the Knight. I am vengeance." All the Xbox people, Jesus Christ, would do my head in. But it would be interesting at the very least. It would be interesting.
So, boys, I think we've talked quite a lot about this, and I think we've had some phenomenal conversation. I quite like all the points made. But, of course, it is just a rumour. So I'm going to ask you boys the final question. Phil, do you think this is true?
I don't think you've given me any reason why it couldn't be true. There's lots of acquisitions going on, and if the price tag is right, and I think $4 billion is a butt ton of money, why wouldn't you sell it, right? If these games aren't, pushing forward, being progressive with the current developer, let's move them on. Let's get EA involved. Let's get Sony involved. Let's get Xbox involved. Why not? Hey, let's see what the future of Mortal Kombat possibly could be, and the Batman series, because those are the two series that I'm probably the most interested in.
I think it's definitely true on this. I think they're definitely up for sale. This has been rumored quite a bit actually. This rumor was going around a couple of years ago that they were looking about selling, and since they've been taken over by Discovery and had that merger, it's kind of been on the cards since. It definitely doesn't seem like they're really too interested in this division anymore. I can see it happening, and I suppose, like Phil said, ultimately I'd want EA to buy them. I just wouldn't want EA to be EA, to do what EA do, which is either put out really shit games or just kill studios off. So, come on, Sony, just do it. Just do it just to protect them and just do the good guy thing and let the games out there. But we'll wait and see, as you said, Spence. See what happens. What about you, though? Are you thinking about this being true or not?
I mean, exact same as you boys. It's basically an echo chamber. I think this is 100% true. No reason for it not to be. Out of these, I'd rather Sony buy them, because EA will shove microtransactions up the fucking wazoo. Xbox means I can't play them, which would suck for Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat's goated. So Sony, I need Sony to do it. But even though we think it's true, I think we're done with this. Let's move from speculation to fact and take these acquisitions to the topics.
Stop! Topic time!
Spence, you absolutely killed it on that transition. That's probably the best transition I've ever heard in my entire life. So how am I going to follow up with that? So guys, topic 1. Do you like that? Do you enjoy that one? I thought you would, Spence. That's for you, mate. That's for you, for how well you did last time. Square Enix has sold Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal to Embracer Group, including their IPs. Now, some of these IPs are Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, the boy, the absolute hero. And it's for $300 million. Now, the transaction is likely to close between July and September of 2022, which is in Q2 of Embracer's fiscal year. Now, once this deal goes through, Embracer will have more than 14,000 employees, 10,000 game developers, and 124 internal studios. It also confirmed it has more than 230 games in development at these studios, and more than 30 of them are AAA titles. Absolutely insane news, guys. Now, it's important to note here that Square Enix are still operating as their own corporation, as their own entity, but they're more focusing on Japanese games, so like the Final Fantasy series, and they're still keeping Don't Nod around for Life is Strange, which is great news for me. Now, they've said in this that the reason for this acquisition is to allow it to invest more in blockchain, AI, and the cloud. Now, Phil, I want to hand it over to you first. I want your reaction to this, and I want to hear if you think that them investing more in blockchain and everything is a good idea right now.
It's going to be a short one for me because I absolutely don't care. I'm looking through the list of games from Embracer Group, and I don't think any of them reach anywhere close to my top 10 of games. They're definitely a studio, or definitely a group of studios that I'm not interested in at all. So I'm probably the worst person to come to first, and that's probably why you've come to me, because I've kind of taken the easy route out of this conversation and saying I don't really care a lot about them at all. So I'm going to hand back to Spencer. But for me personally, I'm just not a fan.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of relatively big studios in there. There's a lot of well-known studios, but a lot of the games they make are kind of just, who cares? I mean, the new acquisition, namely the Square Enix stuff, to me, those are probably the biggest ones. I haven't played a Tomb Raider in a long time, but I know they're great. I loved when the remake came out. She had hair physics. What the fuck's that for? But I turned them up to max. I wanted to see if my PC could run it, and it couldn't. It is what it is. I think a lot of these studios, they make good games, but games that I would have played maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago, not really the games I'm looking to play now. So similar to you, mate, I don't think I really care either.
That's fair enough, guys. I think for me personally, there's some good studios in here. There's some good franchises that they have. I mean, Gearbox in Embracer is a big deal. Sure, they haven't put out like a major hit in quite a while, but they're a well-known studio. We were talking last time about Dead Island, and that's obviously Deep Silver. So they're in the mix as part of the Embracer Group. So there are some big things in there. But for me, I think that with Crystal Dynamics, that's a great studio. It's a fantastic studio. I've played the 2 of the 3 Tomb Raider games, the new reboots. I've played both of those, and I loved them. I thought they were really good. I thought they were kind of just aping on Uncharted. They just didn't hit Uncharted's level, but they were still really good in their own right. Now, you also think about with this, I loved Guardians. Guardians went into my top 3 games of last year, and that's done as part of the Square Enix team that have been sold off. So they got some really good talent here and some great IPs. As I said about Legacy of Kain, and super happy about that. If we get a chance for that to have a new lease of life over in the Embracer Group, I think that's great. And personally, I much prefer Embracer to buy him than for it to go into the hands of EA or to go into Xbox's hands. That's for damn sure.
Looking down the list of games that Embracer Group sort of own, there has been some big titles there that they've just done nothing with. So I wouldn't be overly confident that this acquisition is going to be a positive thing. I look at games such as Time Splitters. Now, this game has got such a big following, and it is beloved in the community. You talk about Time Splitters, and everyone will come back to you with a positive reaction. I don't know anyone that's going to come back and go, oh, I hated that game. Apart from when someone, for whatever reason, chose the monkey character and he was shorter than everybody else, so he had a massive advantage when you played Deathmatch. That was my only complaint with that game. But outside that, everyone would be positive with that. So why haven't they done anything for at least... Well, when was the last one? GameCube?
Oh, God, yeah, it was. Yeah, Future Perfect was the last one. The third entry. And phenomenal game. But you're right. I mean, with Time Splitters, there was some news that came out about that last year. When we first started our podcast, actually, it was one of the first things we discussed was about Time Splitters and how they are bringing it back. It's just been in development hell. It's just been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. And the last news we had was that they'd hired a lot of the original team back to do it, which is fantastic. So I imagine we're actually going to see something from that next year, I imagine. Will be the first time we see it. That seems about the right time frame for that. And it does kind of tie into what they're saying here, where they're saying that they've got 30 AAA games in development. I believe that. I think just the proof's going to be in the pudding, and we'll have to just wait to see some of these things come to fruition and some of these things really kind of start paying off. And I suppose with what they've done already with Destroy All Humans and putting that out, and that was a great success, they've proven that they can at least do it. But it might just be a case that we just got to wait to see if these things come into their own. And if they do, they might then be a publisher that you actually think about. Because I certainly don't think about them on the same level as I do Ubisoft or Tencent or kind of anyone else really, for that matter. Now, guys, I do want to loop back to this because Square Enix said that their main reason for doing this is to allow it to invest more in blockchain, AI, and in the cloud. Now, with the fact that we've seen massive downfalls in cryptocurrency over the last couple of weeks, really, with everything that's happening in the economy, with Bitcoin now falling down to below 36,000, for me personally, I think it's probably the worst time ever to do this and to focus on this, especially with NFTs and kind of everything that's happening at the moment and the amount of people that are losing their money. What do you think about this? I mean, Phil, I know you're a big fan of crypto. You love a good bit of crypto. Do you think that now's the right time to be able to invest more in that market?
Well, Davey, they're not buying altcoins or buying Bitcoin here with their investment, are they? That's not what they're saying. You know, if they're creating NFTs, then they are the profiteer here.
No, you're right. It would be a case of them launching their own, but with the negative stigma that NFTs have on the market, personally, I think that's just going to damage their brand even more than it already does. I think all someone has to do is say that they're launching an NFT and they get a dirty mark on them straight away. Especially, you think about how volatile Twitter is. Anyone says they're launching an NFT, it's like immediate public enemy number one. They get dogpiled for it. And last thing you want if you're Square and you've sold off this big thing and you want to then focus on your Japanese development, you want to focus on relaunching your franchises and making sure that Final Fantasy and well, I suppose just Final Fantasy, right? I can't really think of anything else they do. But yeah, you think about like Final Fantasy and Life is Strange, you want to really make those franchises sing and to have really tight control over your franchises, which is what you get for having a smaller publishing arm. I think the last thing you want to do is kind of paint yourself in the same brush with that Konami has, where people think of Konami just like a joke, because all they do is they put out franchises to either die or then they're investing more in NFTs, which they're doing. So I think this is just suicide doing this. I think this is the wrong time to do it. It's a stupid idea. I don't think there's any hunger in the gaming space for NFTs and for blockchain. Everyone's sick enough of nickel and diamond companies, nickel and dinosaur. I don't want to own a fucking pixel picture of Tifa Lockhart or whatever. Maybe I would. Maybe I would for Tifa. Maybe Tifa would be the one that would get me, but it would have to be pretty risque. And then I'd hide it, and nobody would know I got it, because I wouldn't share about it.
With an NFT, do you really own it?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's just a mess, and I think that it's just a bit of a disaster zone. But am I alone in thinking that, Spence? What are you thinking about this whole thing?
I'm upset that you brought up the Tifa Lockhart NFTs because I was immediately going to retort with, bro, think of all the Tifa hentai NFTs they could make. That's money. I would buy 12. Tell you right now, they'd be class. But at the same time, what was the studio before that gave out work bonuses, and as the bonus they gave them NFTs?
Ooh.
Was it Ubisoft?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah. It didn't go well. It never ends well. Whenever a game company tries to like just kind of dip into this kind of thing, I don't think I've seen it work out once. Not a single time. And it mostly just results in companies either losing money or getting bad publicity, which is just never a good thing. I don't understand why you'd do it. And if you were going to enter this space, now is not the best time at all. I really don't understand it. I'm sure there are benefits to doing so, and they probably are doing it for those benefits, but I just feel like there was a smarter time to do this in the past, and now I probably wouldn't stick to that plan. I'd probably try do something different.
I think what they've said there about, investing in AI in the cloud, I think fair enough. Okay, you could see why they would want to do that, and be able to push maybe like game development or making things run better with the cloud, like Xbox are doing with their cloud processing. I can see all that kind of stuff. I can see why they'd want to do that. For me, all this does is it opens the door to say, right, well, someone's going to buy Square. And really, looking at it, you want Final Fantasy big time. Everything else you can kind of bin off. I mean, as much as I love Life is Strange, I can't really think of anything else that Square are doing that I'm interested in. If they're that much smaller now, with a lot of their business gone, their price isn't going to be huge. Because Final Fantasy, sure, is a big franchise, and, the Final Fantasy MMO is doing gangbusters and doing a lot, but they're not going to be worth that much just with that one franchise left there as their kind of power franchise, are they?
So I was just going to go back to your previous point there, Sven. I would probably question you why you think NFTs aren't profitable for the company running them. Through my knowledge and my experience of NFTs, they definitely are. But I do agree with you that optically, it doesn't look great to be jumping on this bandwagon of NFTs because it has such a negative connotation attached to it. And I do agree with you on that point. As Davey was saying, when it comes to AI and the cloud, they're very much buzzwords that everyone seems to want to be involved in. And if you're not in it, if you don't buy a lottery ticket, you can't win the lottery when it comes to NFTs. So I believe you have to be in it when you're this size of company.
Yeah, I understand. I think my point with the whole NFTs being unprofitable is mostly just due to the bad publicity. It's just a way of, although the NFTs aren't directly causing you to lose money, they will in a roundabout way.
I see you're on about more like their perception would harm their company back end to such an extent that people wouldn't want to get even remotely anywhere near that franchise or that thing.
Yeah.
Because NFTs are involved and the negative stigma. Is that what you mean?
It's kind of, although they'll earn profit through the NFT avenue, they'd lose the total amount of profit they would have earned through other avenues because of the bad publicity and the image damage that they'd be creating upon themselves.
I think that's a fair point, personally. I could definitely see that. I mean, I just think about what's happened and why so many companies have pulled back their plans to doing it. Like, if you've got that in the pipeline, and then you get so much negative stigma and so much hate and vitriolic response, which is what they're getting. They're getting so much hate. If they thought, well, is that going to harm our back end? Probably not. They'll just put it out. They don't give a shit. You think about what the stuff we've seen in the gaming industry with like loot boxes, and then it takes law to be able to change that, and court cases to be able to get them to stop doing that. Because even though it's a negative response, they didn't care. It was making money. So why would you care? And so I suppose NFTs would be the same thing if they were actually doing something. But I guess all you're getting really is that, one, people probably aren't buying them, especially with the market falling like it is, and NFTs getting so much. All I'm seeing all the time is people posting pictures of the monkeys that they bought or whatever, and they've bought it for like 30 grand, and now they can't sell it for like 200 quid or whatever. I just think people just don't want to get involved with it. Like, people don't really care about that market, especially in the gaming industry. And ultimately, as you said, is it worth the negative stigma that you get associated with your studio? And I'd agree with you. I think probably not. But ultimately, I'm not a Square Enix shareholder, or I'm not on their board. All it screams to me is that they're just out of touch. And I think that's the by and long of it, really. I think that Square Enix need to really knuckle down on what they do and start putting games out at a good click. And maybe they're thinking about, with the new Kingdom Hearts that's coming out, maybe they're thinking instead of it taking 10 years to develop, if they're a smaller, more nimble publisher, that maybe they can get this out within 3 years or something. Personally, I think all of this just reeks of like a company going into its dying throes, and I don't know why I'm getting that vibe from this when Square are doing nothing but really good stuff at the moment when it comes to their main core franchises with Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and Life is Strange. But it just reeks to me of kind of desperation, and it just seems like a really odd move to me, why they'd bother to do this and ship out so much of their business. Makes no sense whatsoever.
All right, guys, considering the pedigree, and we've discussed the Embracer Group quite heavily with concerns to blockchain, AI, and the cloud, but let's concentrate on the games here. Looking at their back catalogue, and now them taking over games such as Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, do you feel they're going to do those games justice, or are they just going to sit in the back catalogue along with Time Splitters? How do you feel? What games are you excited for, Davey?
For me, it's all about Legacy of Kain. I've wanted to see a Legacy of Kain remake for forever. As soon as remakes started coming out, it's one of those games that immediately on the PlayStation 1 generation I think of, and we've had some actually incredible ones, but for me, I'd be as excited for that as I would be for seeing remakes of pretty much any game on PS1, even as much as like MGS1. I really love Legacy of Kain. I've got it down there, down in my collection. I adore it. So to see that get a chance for a new life under the Embracer Group, where, if they're going in and making a remake of Destroy All Humans, and they think that's worth it, surely Legacy of Kain's got to be in the conversation, right? That a game with that much prestige that literally everybody, you talk about favorite games on PlayStation 1, it's going to come up in the list for the majority of people, I'd imagine. So for that would be a huge deal for me. A massive, massive deal. And that's probably the only plus that I can think of with this, really, to be honest. Because everything else, like we said at the start, we just got to wait for them to, cook these things up and for them to start putting them out. And then we can judge them on their quality. Or that's how I feel anyway. But maybe I'm being a bit negative, really, and not giving them the benefit of the doubt.
That's the thing. Obviously, games development takes a long time, and having these IPs and seeing their current state of play and kind of working out where they want to take them, it's a difficult decision. But Spence, let's pass it to you. Which games are you excited? Davey's mentioned Legacy of Kain. I would probably echo that. A lot of us probably think along the same lines when we're looking down that list. But do any other games sort of stick out to you?
Well, I mean, acquisitions always mean more money. So if this just means Square has more money to do all this random shit, they have more money for making games, correct? Yes?
Yeah, Square would, yeah. I mean, they're sold off all the franchises we care about.
I'm sold off Final Fantasy, right?
No, true.
Right. Well, I'm still waiting for FF7 Part 2. And if more money means that game's going to be better and maybe come out sooner, it definitely won't come out sooner. We're not going to see it for 20 years. But if it makes that game better and gives it a good ending, unlike the first one, I'd be all for it. And I would love to see the return of Chrono Trigger. Because I've been waiting for that game for years. Absolute years. And it's never come back. And I just want to play it again. So that's what I want.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you on that. But when it comes to the Embracer Group and kind of the games that they're taking over, Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, these sort of games, what are you excited for? Is there any in that list that, raises that eyebrow a little bit?
The reason I went to Square rather than Embracer was because I don't really give a lot of fucks about the IPs they've acquired. Tomb Raider, sure, but I prefer Uncharted. I want to play those games again rather than go to a Tomb Raider game. Deus Ex, we haven't had one of those in years, and the last one I played I didn't like very much. Controversial opinion, especially around my friends. They all loved the games. I'm good. No, I don't care about Embracer's IPs. I'd much rather see Square use the money and they come out better. That's all I care about throughout this acquisition, really.
I suppose the thing about it is we know that Tomb Raider's coming out. We know that they switched over to U5 for the development, and they're saying that they're going to set the benchmark for visual fidelity. And I can believe it. Crystal do a great job with Tomb Raider, so I got every faith that is going to be a phenomenal game.
You say they're going to set the benchmark. Who is the benchmark in your opinion, just to interrupt you?
Ooh, for visual fidelity, at the moment I'd say it's with Guerrilla. It's with Guerrilla, without a shadow of a doubt. I think for now, when we get later into the generation, obviously we're going to see those graphics for Horizon be easily eclipsed, without a shadow of a doubt.
Who's going to do it? Go on, say it. say who's going to do it.
I don't know, because do you think probably Naughty Dog, right?
It's Naughty Dog. It's definitely Naughty Dog.
You probably think so. I mean, The Last of Us 2 was incredible. I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw that. But we're early days in the gen, so we could see Guerrilla come back with another entry before the end of the generation, and then just re-blow all our minds again. And I wouldn't put that past them, because they always seem to be the studio that are just able to work some kind of magic under the hood. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I honestly don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the engine that they're using, the Decima engine. I don't know what it is, right? But they're able to just take the world and just make it so insanely visually appealing. And be that in, a Helghast cityscape, which is completely destroyed, to be now in a lush jungle in the middle of Horizon. Everything just has its own visual identity that is just so appealing to me. I think they've got the potential to win it back and just to hold that crown for the rest of Gen, because it's not going to be Insomniac. It's not going to be anything that Xbox are doing, let's be real. Even though Hellblade looks incredible, right? It looks great. I'm still very skeptical. I suppose we'll have to wait for that and see if it lives up to what they were showing on their last trailer. But I think they're the only other studio from rivals that are anywhere close to what Sony are putting out. And I can't see Santa Monica doing anything. I can't see them getting 2 games out this gen. We've God of War, so I can't see another one being PS5 exclusive by the end of the generation. But who knows? You just don't know, do you? I suppose we're still in that awkward time at the moment where we've got too many crossovers. And I suppose next year is when we're going to start seeing that be kind of eliminated. And then we can really see what this console can do. But that's my kind of answer to that. So Spence, I take it you're thinking it's Naughty Dog?
Naughty Dog's the goats, man. I adore Naughty Dog. They're so sick. All their games are so stunning. If you went right now, got a base PS4, and you put Last of Us Part 2 in, and someone said, what do you think of my PS5? You wouldn't know.
Well,
it runs at 30, sure. But you wouldn't know.
And it's not 4K.
No, but you wouldn't know.
Yeah, especially in the cutscenes and the stuff. When you're getting the close-ups on Joel and Ellie, it is incredible. It really is. They know what they're doing, but they got the benefit of releasing last on the generation though. So you kind of got to bear that in mind. It's not really fair, because if you compare that then to Horizon on PS4 looks better than The Last of Us does. It does. It looks insane, that game on PS4. It's incredible. It can even run, bro. It's actually nuts. Phil, are you with me on this with it being Guerrilla? Or are you thinking someone else could take the crown across the wide escape?
Yeah, and I think you can tell by my reaction when you said Guerrilla, that was going to be my obvious one. When it comes to Guerrilla, they blow everyone away when they release a game. You just got to look at Killzone. You got to look at Horizon. My God, these games are known for being stunning. So they're always going to be in the mix, aren't they? Regardless if we're late on in the generation, early on in the generation, somewhere in the middle, they're always pushing the boundaries. They're the ones people want to match.
All we got to hope now is that we get the same kind of gameplay from it, What I want to see is, instead of us focusing so much on fidelity all the time, as much as I love pretty graphics as much as anyone, I think this actually loops back to what we were talking about with Horizon at the start of the podcast, but I'd prefer studios just to think about ways they can just change up the gameplay a little bit, especially when it comes to this new Tomb Raider, when that does eventually come out under the Embracer Group. I want to see them really take the gameplay, and instead of modeling it as like a kind of semi-open world Uncharted, like the last couple of Tomb Raiders have been, to really just blow the doors off for what this franchise can be, and just reinvent what the series is, and kind of just blow all our minds. Like, you think about Elden Ring's been the success it has been because it's taken the Souls formula and then just blown that up, right, into something else that's better than the previous parts. I think game studios need to think more about when they're making a sequel, or they're making a spiritual successor, or whatever it is, how you can then elevate not just the graphics, not just the ray tracing, not just the frames and stuff like that, how you can just reinvent that to be onto the next generation. I don't think we see that often enough. I think there's still a lot more that can be done to be able to give players freedom and freedom of choice within their games, and still make it a structured cinematic experience. And I think it's a very hard thing for studios to do, and that's why, linking it back to what we were saying with Horizon earlier, it doesn't quite hit those 10s because it doesn't give enough freedom in it.
So it doesn't always have to be, you know, the big boys. It doesn't always have to be EA. It doesn't always have to be Guerrilla. We only have to go back to Returnal with Housemarque. That game looks incredible. Now, what did Housemarque really do before Returnal? We got games like Stardust, Dead Nation. None of them are graphically stunning. And they come out with that. It blows the socks off everyone.
Yeah, I suppose all you need now is we just need to see some of these. Well, I suppose with indie teams, they do really great artistic vision, don't they? And you get some like incredible games which are totally unique from everything else. Like Trek to Geomi's out now, and apparently it's not very good. Apparently it's terrible. But
Game Pass, apparently.
yeah, it said Game Pass day one, so you know it's not going to be that great. But yeah, apparently it's a 5 out of 10 at best. A lot of people are saying. I still want to pick it up. I'll probably end up getting it in a couple of weeks after I finish off some of my back catalogue. Yeah, so wrapping it back round, really, from what you were saying with Returnal, it's got its own visual identity, which is stunning to look at. It's a beautiful game, but it's made up for it as well in just how well it plays as a game, and that's what helps stand up and elevate above everything else. So as much as we want these games to be visually stunning in their own unique ways and be that lifelike or in their own unique art style, we just got to see the gameplay to match it. And as long as you get that beautiful formula together, you're on to a winner. So we'll be excited to see what Embracer do and what they do with these studios now, and to see if we can get this new Tomb Raider lives up to the hype. If we get to see that Legacy of Kain remake, oh my god, the dreams. I will pop off. I'll go mental if that happens. That'd be nuclear. You will not see it coming because you will all be wiped out in a nuclear fog that will last a century. And it will happen. It will happen. I'm just willing it into existence at this point. But that has been it for episode 42 of In PS We Trust. Now, listener, I do want to know what you feel about this whole merger, because it's crazy news. Nobody expected it coming. Do you think that Square Enix is going to be better off with this and focusing on their Japanese development? Do you think that going down blockchains, AI, in the cloud is the right move? Let us know. Write into the email, pswetrust@gmail.com.
I'll be posting on Reddit for this episode, so make sure you join the conversation. I'll be on there every day, so as soon as you post, I'll be right back with my opinion.
And of course, we'd love to hear from you on Twitter @NPSWeTrust or any of our individual Twitter accounts, which will also be in the description below.
I just want to say thank you for bearing with us on this episode. I know we probably don't sound up to the same production level as we normally do. It has been nice having Spence with me, like next to me, even though we are crammed in here like freaking sardines. It's been a nice little experience. We made the best out of a bad situation today. So thank you ever so much for bearing with us. And I hope you enjoyed it. And, if you want us to all get together face to face, that's something else you can let us know. But if you want to really make a difference to us, maybe give us the ability for Spence to be able to afford a new Ethernet cable, or to stop Spencer's dad drilling holes and ripping out cables from the walls, then the best way to support us and get some money and get some like and some loves into our hearts is reviewing the podcast. So just put a 5-star rating on it, please. And that will stop Spencer's dad coming round and ripping out your Ethernet cable. Because he'll come round. He'll know you listened, and he will appear. He's like the Candyman. But only if you don't review the podcast. And that's been it for episode 42. So I've been Davey.
I've been Phil.
And I've been Spencer.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
In PS We Trust is hosted by Davey, Phil, and Spencer. You can write into the show via our email, pswetrust@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @InPSWeTrust. To find each of us online, follow our Twitters, @SSJDavey, @PhilipHoy, @SpenPie_. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. See ya.